Well, it's a very good evening to you. Welcome to the West Ham Voice on a Monday night. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you've all having a nice break from domestic football and enjoying the international football. I had my own international break, as you all know. I was away for a week, got back on Saturday, and I must admit it was quite relaxing and quite enjoyed being away. And all back refreshed, I guess. Waiting for the next game that West Ham will entertain us with, which is, of course, still over a week away to Wolves. So we've got an awful lot of other football. There's still some international football to play between now and then, but there's a lot of domestic football to come before we're back involved, and not until next Tuesday. So really looking forward to that. So what are we going to talk about? There's no West Ham to moan about. I guess we can moan about international football. I just finished watching the England game against Latvia. Any difference under Thomas Tuchel? I don't know. You tell me. Anyway, we'll do a bit of a roundup on all West Ham news, what there is of it, and sort of try and break a few myths. The myth, of course, about a certain injury that's supposed to keep a certain player out for the rest of the season. And then we're going to talk about whether a certain player on international duty ought to be getting a start for West Ham, given that he scored a goal at the weekend for his respective international team. We'll talk all about that later on, but let's do a bit of a roundup because, of course, one of the main things that's going on outside of football is the FA case against Lucas Paquetta, which started last week. We're now into week 2 of the case. Now, Paquetta, as you know, wasn't selected for international duty with Brazil because he had to be around because he will be called upon to give evidence in this FA hearing. Now, we're kind of hearing an awful lot of stuff, but not a lot of stuff, if you know what I mean, because the FA and everybody that's involved in this is keeping very, very tight-lipped. People are speculating as to what's going on and what's happened, etc., but we can only give you some surface information. So if anyone tells you otherwise, then I don't know where they're getting their information from, because at this moment in time, there's been a week of this hearing that's happened. There's apparently another 2 to go. We know it's a 3-man board that's overseeing the case, and they're calling witnesses. And we also know that David Moyes, ex-West Ham manager, is going to testify on behalf of Lucas Paquetta. Paquetta will be called upon as well. I don't know what day yet, but we know he'll be called upon to testify as well. And I'm kind of glad in a way, because in terms of everyone being kept tight-lipped about it, because people can be a bit what's the word I want to use? We don't want to start hearing speculation and believing it's true until the hearing is over. So it's obviously quite a trying time for Paquetta. I don't think we're going to hear much more as to what the outcome is going to be until the end of March. But I mean, Paquetta himself will still be available for selection. The hearing will end probably sometime either just after the Wolves game, but he'll be available for selection for that game. It's going to be interesting to see whether he will actually be in the right frame of mind to be playing for West Ham United. So it's a difficult one, because I want to give you news, but I don't want to just give you throwaway news. And I know there's quite a lot of stories out there as to what the findings of this hearing are so far, but I don't want to be that sort of person to tell you that it's going one way or another. All we know is what we've already been told. It's quite serious. If he's found, if he's found that he could, he may have defrauded, or not him defrauded, but if it's found that he was guilty of spot fixing, then they'll throw the book at him. Now, there's a lot of talk. There was a lot of talk last week about the value of the bets that were placed. We already knew this. We knew this when it first came out, that the bets were quite low. I think as low as £7 or something like that. And the bets were far-reaching. Now, I think one thing that I think is in favour for the player is were other games bet on as well, apart from the 4 that he was charged against? Because if there was regular betting on Paquetta, then I think that goes in his favour. because they could say, look, there's regular better. I mean, the reason why the bets were found in the first place is because of the bookings that were given, and they tied in the number of bets. I think what should be looked at, and hopefully is that if bets were placed throughout the whole time that he was at West Ham and not just for these 4 games. Look, if they were spread across a whole number of games, then you could argue that Paquetta's style of play does get him yellow cards. But if the bets are specific for just those 4 games, then that might tell you another story altogether. But it's ongoing. It's in its 2nd week. So let's see what happens there. Women's team. Well, the women had a great win over the weekend because they played against Spurs, their fifth win of the season. They played Spurs at home at the weekend. And in the game that saw the visitors hit the woodwork twice, it was West Ham who took advantage of their chances. On the 16-minute, French international Vivienne Asay threaded through a neat pass to left-back Verena Hanshaw, who made a clever run into the 18-yard box. A low crossfield pass hit a Spurs defender to fly into the net for an own goal. And then it was Asay herself who got on the score sheet in the second half, right on the 90th minute. Her free kick from outside the box managed to avoid everybody, and it nestled into the side of the net for a 2-0 win. Now, that keeps the West Ham women's team safely in mid-table, 18 points in 8th place, way off the league leaders, Chelsea, on 47 points, but enough of a healthy cushion of 9 points from the relegation zone. So well done to them. Of course, there's no academy play, but we had a few players on loan duty that did feature last week. Despite the international break in the lower leagues, we still saw some players in action. Gideon Kodua was one such player, played a decisive role for Wycombe Wanderers, scoring the winning goal in a 3-2 win over Rotherham last week in League One. Following a narrow home defeat against promotion rivals Wrexham the weekend before last, they played Rotherham and they got themselves back on track for an automatic playoff place, and they're back in second place in the league. On the 66th minute, Kodua scored not the 66th minute, sorry. On the 66th minute, Wycombe equalised after going a goal down. And then Rotherham thought they got the lead again, but their goal was ruled out for offside. And then Wycombe went 2-1 up, and in injury time, Gideon Kodua made it 3-1. Rotherham did get another goal in the dying moments through a penalty, but Wycombe held on. In the community stadium, Mason Terry's Hornchurch suffered a heartbreak in the BBC Essex Senior Cup final. That's a mouthful. Losing to Canvey Island on penalties. Canvey had taken the lead just before half-time, only for Hornchurch to equalise with the last kick of the game. With no extra time, the contest went straight to penalties, and Canvey won 4-2. So unlucky for Mason Terry. But sticking with Mason Terry, last week, he signed an extended contract till 2027 with West Ham. He's been at the club since the age of 8 and has had a very decent season out on loan with Hornchurch, having kept 10 clean sheets in 36 league games. And earlier today, sticking with the academy players, we heard that Freddie Potts had also signed an extended stay with West Ham. Now, he signed a new deal just last year, and I think that was till 2026 or 7. So I think he signed an additional couple of years on top of that. I haven't got the full details, but I know that he signed an extended deal with West Ham to keep him at the club for a number of years to come. Look, he's been impressive, hasn't he? He was impressive with Wycombe last season. He's been really impressive with Portsmouth on loan this season. He's been immense, and I can't really see him going anywhere for a long time yet. And a senior source apparently said he'll be assessed in pre-season. He needs to improve for our team. He needs to be even better to be part of the senior squad, but he's got a real chance. He'll be back with the group for the start of pre-season. So good luck. Well done to him for signing a new deal, and good luck to him for next season. I think he's going to be part of the squad, to be quite honest with you. I think he's this type of player that Graham Potter will relish having at the club. Now, some injury updates. Let's break a little myth, shall we? Because earlier today, a story came out that I thought came out about 2 weeks ago. Look, first of all, it's great that we now have every senior player back from their injuries. Nicholas Fulcrook having spoken about his frustration this season, being injured for most of it. We saw Vladimir Sufal returning to action when playing for the Czech Republic during this international break. But there is some confusion over the latest story surrounding Crysencio Summerville, with the over-exaggerated stories that he's now out for the rest of the season. Now, look, firstly, the player is not out for the rest of the season. And secondly, it's a story that was, as I said, it's been regurgitated from a few weeks back. Now, do you remember, I think maybe in the last West Ham Weekly I said a senior source suggested that the player had turned down the chance of having surgery on his injury. He turned that down. And then, as I stated a couple of weeks back, Summerville himself put out on his social media account, I don't know which one it was, whatever one it was anyway, he put out on his social media account video and photos of him training and about, the potential of him coming back soon. And let's not forget also, Graham Potter, in his last press conference, suggested for the Everton game that Summerville was not likely to be back until after the international break. Now, look, okay, the international break will be over at the end of this week. We didn't see Summerville training with the rest of the squad that aren't on international duty. There was a video that came out at Rush Green, I think at the tail end of last week, and Summerville wasn't part of that. But that's not to say that he's out for the rest of this season. Now, what the senior source said 2 weeks ago, as I've already mentioned, is that the player himself had turned down the chance for surgery, and only if he had a relapse during his rehabilitation would he likely miss the rest of this season and perhaps the beginning of next, because then that will mean he would have to have surgery, which will make him miss the beginning of next season. Now, we've not heard anything to suggest that Crysencio Summerville has had a relapse in his rehabilitation. And it would not surprise me one bit if the player was back training again with the rest of the squad, either this side after the international break and just before the Wolves game, or more likely he'll be back with the squad training again after the Wolves game. But at this moment in time, it's way too premature to suggest that the player is out for the rest of the season. Right, I've got a lot of people in the chat, so let's go and say hello to you all, because I haven't done that. And then we'll see what you guys think about what I've said about Paquetta and about Summerville as well. Leslie, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you very much, mate. I hope you're well. Ferguson playing 74 minutes proves he can start, and we could do with a bit more attacking. But does Potter want to change his style? Well, we're going to come up to that in a minute when we talk about the international games and individual players. Good evening to you, Stephen. How are you, mate? Good evening to you, Toha. Good holiday? Very good, mate. I was quite late because I was finishing off watching the game. It wasn't great. But I was also trying to finish off getting the show together as well. So I think it was a bit later than that, Toha. Usual. How are you, mate? I like the video more than the song. Whose video and whose song? Toha again. Good driving music. Usual. I love the way you can have your banter between. Daniela, yes, 3-0 it was. Good evening to you, Anthony. I hope you're well. Daniela, also well done to the girls beating Spurs 2-0. Absolutely. Darren, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. I had a really, it was a break. I needed a break. Out in the sun, got a bit of sun, a bit of fresh seafood. Always love some seafood, but it was hard to find where we were. It's quite a small place in Tenerife. We went to a place a bit more remote than Playa de las Americas. There wasn't a lot there. There was only one good restaurant that we went to 3 times because it was that good. Anyway, enough about my holiday. Good evening to you, Matt. I hope you're well, mate. Oi to you. Bowlane Lounge, good evening, lads. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Matt, happy for Bowen getting a start. Didn't think Super Thomas was going to drop Foden. Did anyone hear what the commentator said? No Liverpool, United or City players in there in the 11 since 91 or not. Yeah, I kind of heard that as I was writing the script for the show. That's interesting. Well, I don't know. What's his name? Even though he's on loan at Rashford started. He's on loan at Aston Villa, but he's still a Man United player. Who else we got? Vonnie, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Good evening, avid indoorsman. I thought it said indoor salesman. Why did I think it said indoor salesman? Good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Anthony, don't watch England games anymore since a German got put in charge. Bloody insult. Not offended then, are you, Anthony? Matt, I'm happy to see Rashford back in the England squad, but he's been awful the last 2 games and Foden is a poor winger. I agree with some fans saying the England shirt is too heavy for Foden. Let's not forget how Sir Alf Ramsey won the World Cup for England back in 1966. He didn't pick the best players. He picked the best team, which is quite a different thing. You know, you can actually, Jimmy Greaves, I know he was injured, but when he got back from injury, he wasn't picked. Of course, the great Sir Geoff Hurst was picked instead. We all know how that went. But the point I'm making is you may have great players, but they don't necessarily make a great team. You know, and sometimes you need the Jack Charltons of this world, the Thomas Součeks of this world to make a great team. You get my drift? Yeah, Foden didn't impress. I watched a bit of the England game when I was out there in Spain, the first game, and neither Rashford nor Foden really impressed at all, to be quite honest with you. Matt, what a beautiful that was a great free kick. I thought it was Bowen, but James did the business. Yeah, I thought Bowen was going to do it from the left side. Martin, but it was a great free kick. Evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Ferguson played well for the Republic last night, scored a very good goal. He played in the number 10 position, which makes it even more difficult to determine whether he's going to end up playing in the game or starting in the game against Wolves. We'll get to that later on. Matt, next international break is June. That's going to fly by. That's all right. End of the season. Let's hope Bowen is consistent for us, gets selected for the upcoming qualifiers. He was 6 out of... He played an interesting game tonight. He didn't quite play the sort of game that we know he can, playing for West Ham by taking it down the byline, cutting in, etc. It looked like he was being asked to play a bit of a different game. Matt, will Umbro still be our supplier for next season? The answer is I don't know, to be quite honest with you. I know Betway has got one more season left, but I don't know if Umbro... That's a really good question. I'll find out for you, Matt. I don't know. Good evening, Howard. I hope you're well. Good evening to you. And to Miss Smith, who is a Mr. Smith, good evening to you with those lovely toenails. Joan, good evening. I hope you're well. Thank you very much. I did have a great time. Thank you. Good evening to you, Leon. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Kimbo, hello, mate. I hope you're well as well. Who else have we got there? Stephen. Bowen did well for England tonight, so good. I thought he played okay. I thought he was quite lively. I was a bit gutted that he was taken off, but, you know, fair play to Tuchel, who actually played him from the start. I didn't expect that, so fair play to Tuchel for doing that. Good evening, Darren. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Matt, Bowen did well, but we all know he could do better. Give him a chance. He will do well. Roll on June for the qualifiers. Agreed. Where's Budgie? Green Street, there you are, mate. How are you, Clive? I hope you're well, mate. Good evening to you, Lee. How are you? I hope you're well. Obsidian, how are you? Free Lucas Paquetta. Well, let's hope so. I mean, I don't know, people. You know, I mean, I kind of said an awful lot of stuff about Paquetta over the last year or so. All signs aren't great. The fact that the FA are taking this so very seriously and are really determined to, you know, sort of see this through. I mean, it's been a year in the making. It's a long, long time, isn't it? I hope he gets off with it. And I think one of the cases is, you know, the argument would be, I know he's hired that lawyer, the one that's representing Man City, isn't he? Who can get you out of any hole, really. But my hope is, I was going to say, is that this is his style of play. And they'll focus on that. Look, you know, Paquetta gets bookings, not just in those 4 games, but in many other games as well. Hopefully they'll focus on that. And also, hopefully they'll focus on the fact that, you know, have bets been placed in other games? You know, did anything happen in any of the other games when Paquetta was or wasn't booked? Were there any bets? They should look into this. Is there a pattern of betting across the board, not just for these 4 games? That's what I hope they're going to, I'm sure that's what the defense is going to focus on. Joan, to Budgie, you've got a spanner because because he's elite. Of course he is. Who else have we got? Give Stell a thank you very much. If you're new to this channel, please do hit the like button. The like button is much, much more important. I mean, the subscribers are good, but the like button is far more important than the subscriptions, to be quite honest with you. So if you enjoy the content, please make sure, you know, whether you leave the show early or at the end of the show or whatever, please make sure you hit that like button. Doesn't matter as a subscriber or non-subscriber. If you've liked all the other shows before, it's got to be for each show, each video that's put out. So thank you for doing that. Matt, respect to Moyes for being there for Paquetta. And that throws another thing, doesn't it? Do you remember how we used to have, how we had it rammed down our throats last season that the players were, you know, were not with Moyes, you know, there's this disharmony in the squad. And do you remember how many times we kept seeing people going, Moyes has lost the dressing room, Moyes has lost the squad, Moyes has lost this player, that player's not playing for Moyes, etc. And now a year on, David Moyes, and also, by the way, in the game after, in the game at the end, Everton, well, I was there. I can't remember if I said it, so do forgive me if I haven't said it. But David Moyes came over to the away fans. He got a really, really nice reception, a really good round of applause from the away fans. They respected him for doing that. But also, did you see the number of players that went up to David Moyes? Number of West Ham players that went up to David Moyes. Bowen did, Souček did Paquetta, and various others to greet him, say hello to him. That was a great touch. And that dispels all these myths that we've been hearing about, that we were hearing about when Moyes was at the helm, that he's lost the dressing room, etc. Look, they've got great respect for the manager, for the ex-manager. And I'm really, really pleased that David Moyes is actually coming out and taking the time to speak on behalf of the player. I think that's fantastic, to be quite honest with you. Who else have we got? Just wondering, because of the hearing, is Paquetta still in training? Now, I didn't see him. I watched the Rush Green video the other day, and I don't believe I saw him training. No, he may not be. That doesn't mean he's not, but maybe just out of the limelight for the time being. Who else have we got? Angus, do we know who the members of the panel hearing of the Paquetta case are? Do you know what? I don't know. I'm going to try and find out. Panel. Trust me to have a pen. Trust me to have a pen that has run out of ink. Have I got another pen anywhere? Who is on it? I find out. I think that's an interesting question, and I will definitely find out. See if you know, because will that make a difference? They were independent. I bet I can find out. They're independent, so there shouldn't be any bias, etc. But it's a good question, Angus, and I'll try and find out for you. Who else have we got? Matt, next season will be 10 years at the London Stadium. Thoughts and opinions on our journey so far? For me, it's a roller coaster, but not in a good way. We had a few good games, more bad than good. I'm really torn, because I think the first season was exciting, you know, and I remember it's been interspersed, hasn't it, with some excellent nights there. The game against Seville, the European games, some of the early cup games. The first game I took my other half to at the new stadium when we played Chelsea. I think it was the first season when those fans were trying to get across. And she kept saying it was over. And she kept saying, come on, we've got to go. And I went, no, there's another minute to go. Oh, no. Back. She went, you're winning. Let's go. And I went, no, because all she kept seeing was all the Chelsea fans trying to get across. And I was like, don't worry about it. It's all good. Look, it's been up and down, you know, and I don't know what to say, because sometimes I'm of the mindset that we as fans have got to make the atmosphere. And at other times I'm like, well, you know, there's got to be something to be cheering about. And then I hear the whole thing about the stadium itself, and it doesn't lend itself to being a great to creating a great atmosphere. Well, we know it can create a great atmosphere. We know that because we've seen it, we've experienced it. Again, games against Seville and a few other games, few and far between, but we've experienced the stadium lending itself to being a great atmosphere. So there's an element of what are the fans doing? You know what upsets me? And I'm not having a go at anyone that does this, because I wouldn't. But then I'm lucky enough to live in London, so I can get to a game, and it doesn't matter what time it finishes, etc. I can still get a late train home and all that, and I'll be fine. And I appreciate that there are fans come out, from far and wide. Sometimes they have to get home, so they've got to leave 10 minutes early, and stuff like that. And I get it. But when fans do leave early, I don't think when fans are leaving early, every single fan needs to catch a last train home. And it upsets me a little bit when I see on 70, 75 minutes, 80 minutes that fans are kind of streaming out. Sometimes the the players need the fans to get them through to the end. I think one of the games, I think it was the game a few weeks ago, one of the last games we played there, where we were still in the game and then fans were streaming out. And it was like, if we had those fans there cheering the players on for the last 10 minutes, well, who knows? It might have changed the outcome of the game. And what am I trying to say? I think it's a mixture. It's a mixture that the stadium is not the greatest stadium in the world. It's a mixture of that the football hasn't been great on the pitch, but it's also a mixture of some fans just, I don't know. I don't want to say give up too easily, but some fans leave sooner than they should, which then makes the atmosphere even worse. I've experienced both. But then again, I'm old enough to remember what it was like at the Boleyn as well. Because let's be honest, it was an intimidating place to be, but there were times when you could hear a pin drop at the Boleyn, but in fairness, there were more times where it was just heaving than it was when it was quiet. Whereas at the London Stadium, it's the reverse. I don't know what to say. When we think about, I spoke to, when Nigel was last on, he said to me, I think actually, instead of trying to bring the seating closer to the stadium to give it a better atmosphere, it's probably better to move the seating back. And I was confused. And he went, that's the only way you're going to close the gaps from the upper tier to the lower tier. You get the fans closer to each other, and then maybe you might have a better atmosphere. And when I think about it, when I look at some of the stadia around Europe that have running tracks, at Roma, for example, Lazio, Roma, and a few others, and yet the atmospheres there are great. So maybe he's right. Maybe we need to close the gaps by moving the fans in the lower tiers closer to the upper tiers, but that would create a bigger gap to the pitch itself. I don't know. We're there to stay, and we're going to have to find a way of making the best of it, because I don't know where we're going to go from here, because we're not going to knock it down. We're not going to move out. So we've got to find a way of making, and I know Hammers United at the moment are looking at talking about trying to make it a better atmosphere, singing areas and all that sort of stuff. I get it. Will it work? I don't know, but let's see. Sorry, long answer to a short question, mate. My apologies. Good evening to you, Ralph. I hope you're well, mate. How are you? Who else have we got? Anthony. Stell, any truth in the rumours about Crysencio getting fed up with how the club is being run and might leave West Ham to invest in another club? No truth at all. Look, Crysencio is a businessman, okay? Crysencio will stay at West Ham while it's making him money. Look, all this stuff about him being fed up, etc., on how the club's being run, he's had an opportunity. He's got first dibs at any spare shares in the club. The Gold family have had 10% on offer for over a year, and Crysencio is not remotely interested in buying those shares. Can he take over the club? No. He's already said at his club at Prague, is it Sparta Prague? I think it is, that he owns. He would have to relinquish ownership of that club in order to take over West Ham. Now, he might invest in another club if he thought it was going to make him more money than West Ham. But I guarantee you now, he's getting a great return on his investment. So no, I think the rumours are a little bit skewed, to be quite honest with you. And all this stuff about him bringing in, he was the man that brought in Stein and all that. Look, I don't know, because he has a say in the club, but he's not the majority shareholder. So if we didn't want Stein, the majority shareholder would have been able to, and that's Sullivan, would have turned around and gone, no, don't want him. but he accepted him. He brought him in. So that was a combined effort to bring Stein into the club. Is he fed up with West Ham? It's making him money. Let's not forget, Crysencio is a businessman. Crysencio is an investor. Crysencio has bought the Royal Mail, not because he loves Post, because he loves money. He's going to make money out of it. Every organization Crysencio dips his hand in is there to make him a return on investment. Whilst there's still a return on West Ham's investment, Crysencio will stay there. Is he fed up with it? Unless he sees another club that can make him as much money, if not more, then he's going nowhere. And anyway, if he's fed up with it, then he's got to sell his 27% stake. We can't even sell the 10% that the Gold family have got at the moment. So I don't know who's going to sell the 27% to. Investors, look, West Ham United have been talking for quite a while about bringing in maybe another major investor. And there's been talk for quite a long time in splitting the club into equal shares so that Sullivan reduces his share, Crysencio potentially increases his by a bit, and the Gold family and the other relinquishing theirs, not all together, but having a smaller share to bring in another major investor. So there's like 3 investors having the same number of shares, Crysencio, Sullivan, and plus another, and then they'll have equal say over how the club is run. Now, Crysencio is almost there in that respect. So why would he leave? I don't think he's going anywhere. I could be wrong. Unless he sees a club that's going to bring him a bigger return, a better return, he's going to be staying at West Ham. Let's see what happens there. Cockney, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Coincidence is not evidence. Pac don't have to give over his phone. If I were him, I'd put a lawyer onto the FA dragging it. Well, he's got a lawyer. He's got one of the best lawyers in football that's looking after his case. And unfortunately, this is not a court of law. This is so it's the burden of proof is like, it's just over 51%. If they think there's a 51% chance that he actually did this, they'll throw the book at him. It's not like a court of law where you've got to be, the burden of proof is 99% certainty. But he's got a great lawyer with him. So let's see what happens. Mark, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Daniela, Gonzo said on his post to Moyes, Moyes, Paquetta was not due to play in the Bournemouth game. That's right. It's correct. Paquetta actually asked. I can't remember what the reason was, but Paquetta actually asked back then not to play. He couldn't play or didn't want to play or whatever the reason was, and then ended up playing. So yes, that's the sort of thing that Moyes will testify towards. Darren, hope Paquetta gets found not guilty, and Paquetta, West Ham sued the FA. He can't sue them. They brought a case against him. They either win or they don't, but you can't sue them over it. What will happen is if they do throw the book at him, if they believe he's guilty, then he'll drag it out. He'll appeal. And then that appeal can run for years and years and years. And it could become, and then Paquetta can claim loss of income. If West Ham United stop his contract, the loss of income over the number of years left, etc. I said this in the last show. I think it came to something like 80 odd million pounds that he could lose in earnings, etc. That's what Paquetta can do. He'll put an appeal in, and it will be a costly appeal. And the FA won't want that. And the FA themselves are in a demand that burden of proof has got to be there. Because it's his livelihood that they're playing around with. Dad's our podcast. Good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Who else have we got? He did indeed, and I'll come to that in a moment, Robert. Who else have we got here? Frog, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. And the Ammers, everyone is well. Good evening, Ray. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Kian, hello, mate. How are you? Danny Ings has the second most assists for West Ham this season. Fucking hell, Kian. Is that true? Christ, how shit? No, it can't be. It can't be. Check it. Come back to me. Toha, last time Fulkrug yapped about his frustration being injured. He lasted about half a game and he got injured again. I know. Darren, Potter said in press conference at Summerville, we'll be back after the international break. That's why I was really surprised that I saw in, stories come out today that apparently he's out for the rest. What? I went, what? And then I looked at the story and I went, that was said 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we've already covered this, and that's why I had to sort of cover it again, because I'm like, is that deja vu here? And exactly that. it was the head coach has said he should be back after the international break. Darren, nice down there, talking to each other. You continue there. Frog, I've completely given up trying to guess who is going to play, where they're going to play, when they're going to play, etc., etc. Are you talking about England or are you talking about West Ham? Dads, I think Potter is just dumbing down on Ferguson to lower his transfer fee. Once he's ours on a permanent basis, we'll see the true striker he really is. Trudge, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Tenerife does some nice squid lovely seafood. Mate, I love seafood. I can't get enough of it. I cannot get enough of him. Gary, Gary, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. No lifts where we were. Oh, no, there were actually, but we didn't get stuff stuck in there. Quebec, good evening, mate. How are you? Cod is scoring for that West Ham. I'm going to get to the internationals in a moment for Takis. Olakala. I hope you're well, mates. I hope you're well. Bowling Lounge. Dangerous tactics, in my opinion, Dads. Brighton are pretty savvy operators in the transfer market. I don't think we're messing anyone around. I just don't think he's been... We'll get to it. Let's get to it when we get to it. Who else have we got? Juha, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Chris Nix, good evening, mate. How are you? There's a ban on gambling sponsors being at the front of kits. Not sure the date, though. I think 1 more year. I think next season is the last one. And then we're looking for a new sponsor. Dads, Umbro will be the supplier next season after the club. There you go. Someone asked the question earlier on. Thank you for the answer. Leon, there was talking about Amazon sponsorship, or is it? No, I think there is talk about it. But I think the current sponsors have got 1 more year to go, I think. Trudge, Bowen dropped down the pecking order tonight, in my opinion. I don't know. He played talked about that earlier, played a very different game to what he does for West Ham, to be quite honest with you. Who else have we got? Steve, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Bowen was okay, but they played more to Rashford in the first half. Give him a chance. Yeah, that's fair. And I don't think Rashford looked at all good. Juha, still, I only hope the whole truth comes out to end the speculation. Totally agree. Graham, good evening, mate. I hope are you talking about Paquetta, I'm guessing there. Graham, good evening, mate. Hi, everyone. If Pac-Man is found not guilty, can West Ham and the players sue the arse off the FA for well, he hasn't lost wages. We haven't lost any profits or anything like that, because the minute he's found not guilty, he'll be sold. I just wonder, actually, when I think, I said that pretty quickly. Yeah, he could be sold at the end. That's why it's got to all be done and dusted, by the end, before the end of this season. Who else have we got? Let's scroll down. Bolin. If Pac-Man, it amazes me how many channels know the evidence before it's been presented. We're speculating. We know what's happened. He's been charged on 4 counts. We know that. He's been further charges because apparently he didn't hand his phone over. The second time of asking. So we know all that. We know, and we know that what the rules are. And there is a precedence. I can't remember the player's name. I talked about him, a non-league player who got done for spot fixing. He got done for 10 years because he was found guilty of spot fixing. So there is a precedence, but they've got to prove it. They've got to prove that Paquetta did this. He knew about it. What they've got to do is they've got to link the Paquetta to all these bets, and all these bets were going on over in his the island of Paquetta, etc. So there's a lot of speculation that you can put 2 and 2 together and go, okay, it doesn't look great in certain respects. But I guess what the case is going to be, as I've said earlier on, is his lawyer will go, well, hang on a minute, have you checked other games that he's been booked in? Were there bets on that? This is a pattern. Paquetta is that sort of player. He gets booked and so on and so forth. So they've got to prove beyond this, there's got to be a certainty that it's not just these 4 games, but beyond that. I don't know, because it's right for his lawyer to go, why not look at other games and see what bets have been put on there? Did he get a yellow card in those games as well? So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how it works out. Leon, that's why the FA are pushing it, Graham. They won't want to the consequences it goes against them. Pac's price was 80 million. That's why the FA are pushing it. They won't want to face the consequences if it goes against them. Well, he can't sue them. it is what it is. You know, he won't be able to sue them, but because there hasn't been a loss of earnings. West Ham United, okay, yeah, we could have sold him, but we might still sell him. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. Epic. Good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Juha, is the like button more powerful than the pen that ran out of... I found another pen. Who else have we got here? GP, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Charge, I don't remember the injury, but when he did get a place in 2010, he didn't impress. Don't know who you're talking about. Oh, Green. Ruptured something 5 minutes into his debut. Rob Green. The luck of our players and international. Trudge, even Messi was shouting about him to go to Barca back then. Darren. Finally sorted out my seat to be a season ticket holder next season. Been a bondholder since Upton Park. Always sat near the tunnel. But at this stadium, Bobby Moore stand is better. There you go. Of course it's better. It's where all the standing happens. So they want us all to sit down. But anyway. Green Street Elites, good evening. For me, Lanzini is the best long-serving outfield player we've had since Trevor Brooking. Interesting shout. I think he was great. Since Trevor Brooking? Don't know. Gary, as far as leaving early goes, I think that most people are absolutely nuts. I've been to one game, and due to where I live, that might be the only game I ever get to see in England. I don't know. Each to their own. I don't want to have a go at people that leave early because they do it for various reasons. I don't know. I don't want to sound that sort of person who's having a go at people because I know people need to leave for various reasons. Brian, welcome back. Thank you, mate. I must thank you indeed. Is there anything that could be done structural-wise within reason to help make London? Well, as I said earlier on, what Nigel said made an awful lot of sense. Rather than trying to push the seats further forward, which means that you create bigger gaps between the upper tiers and the lower tiers, if you push them back, then when I was like, I get carried away sometimes. At the last home game, I actually found myself looking around the stadium and going, oh, hang on a minute, the west side between lower and upper is actually not bad. You got the press and you got the the VIPs, etc. But in essence, the lower and the upper tiers are quite close together. And then you've got the Billy Bond stand, where again you look at it and you go, well, it's all one. They're all close together as well, so that's okay. So really, it's the front and the back. Now, what they did with the front and the back, what they did behind the goals a couple of seasons ago now, they pushed the seating, they made it flat, they made it straighter, so it looked like it's closer to the goal, the touch line. The problem is, of course, is you've got a big gap where the screens are. Now, if there's a way just to fill the screens, put seating, get rid of those bloody screens, put them up in the bloody in the roof, etc. But if there's a way of filling in those seating that area where the screens are, that in itself might bring the upper tier and the lower tier closer together. That might work. And there's more seating. You could probably fit another couple of thousand or 1,000 people instead of having the screens. I don't know. That might work itself. But is there any, so structural wise, but then there's other things that Hammers United are trying to do. Talking about having standing areas. I talked about that about a month or so ago, talking about having various other options, a singing area. If you sing, it doesn't matter where you are. I think there should be a family area. And I even boldly suggested that there should be a tourist area. Have them all in one area. We know West Ham want tourists there because they spend more money than us season tickets holders. So have them all in one area. Let them take selfies of their own, together in one part. Then that means all the other fans who want to sing, who want to stand, can all be closer together. Maybe that would create a better atmosphere. I don't know. Who else have we got? GP. If I was the owner, I would hire Howard to do a stealth sculpture for the stealth stand. You want people coming to the game. You don't want to scare them away. Gary, I wish I could go to every game, win or lose. Count your blessings, people. Appreciate that you have the opportunity to go to the games week in, week out. My humble opinion. Yeah, I get that because you came all the way from America, mate. It was great to meet you, and it was... Of course, I'd be the same if I was a fan overseas and then I came to London to see my favourite. I'd be cock-a-hoop. I really would. I'd stay till the very end. So I'd be the last one out. What? You want me to go now? Just another minute. Fans left Upton Park early too, and now there are almost twice as many fans at the London Stadium to leave early. There you go. So it's not just a London Stadium thing. Howard, I'm not doing a still sculpture, whatever that is. It sounds awful. Do you sculpt? Matt, next season is my final season ticket. I'll go back to general and I'll go back to general sale. It's going to be very interesting to see how many people renew. Of course, there's the enticing you, getting 3 points on your to actually renew early and all that sort of stuff. It's going to be very interesting to see how many people actually renew. Darren, I really missed the castle on our West Ham badge. And is it true that a letter got sent to the owners to take the wall down near the away? Well, that's one of the things. Yes, Hammers United, as part of their plan. Well, of course, I've said this all along. You look at European stadiums and how do they separate home fans with away fans? They don't put effing walls up. They put mesh. It does the job. The reason why that board went up is because of the away game. I can't remember who it was. Ghent, I think, whoever it was, when they tore a toilet out and they threw and they went to throw it at the home fans. And so that's why they put the board up. Sod that. Put mesh up. Mesh is fine. You can see through mesh, and it stops anything being thrown at you. Iron. Kretinsky cares about his money, but he's an investor, and it's an investment. We did great to get him, as an investor, but that's what he is. Josh, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. I hope you're well too. Trodge, Premier isn't worth the money with VAR and pricing. We should teach them a lesson of ignoring what fans want. Good point. Bolin, in my opinion, Krasinski never wanted to own West Ham. It was always a business deal to maximize profits. Exactly that. He's admitted he doesn't want to own West Ham. He doesn't want to relinquish ownership of his beloved boyhood club, Sparta Prague. He wants to be an investor. It suits him. He invests in things. The man goes out and buys or invests in things. He can't own West Ham because he would have to relinquish ownership of Sparta Prague. He doesn't want to do that. So an investment is what he can up his investment, no problem at all, but he'll never own it. He doesn't want to own it. Who else have we got? I'm going to avoid that question, that comment, Howard, about me being naked. Who else have we got? Funky T, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Held my breath every time Bowen went down after a tackle tonight. That is the other fear, isn't it, of international football. Hopefully they all come back in one piece. Brian, have you heard of anyone complaining about the ticket prices for the friendlies West Ham are playing this summer? Absolutely, I have. Everyone's complained, mate. They're extortionate, to be quite honest with you. Very expensive at the prices that you guys have to pay over there. Frog, replace London on the badge with Ego Semper Flante Bulle. Ponzi Latin, I'm forever blown bubble. Fucking hell, look at that. We got scholars in tonight. Thank you for that, Frog. Matt, why does it feel like we will never get rid of Sullivan? Because we'll never get rid of Sullivan. With all the rumours we've had in recent years, consortium, Amazon, it's all talk. Sully untied for the next 10 years. Until he pops his clogs, he's with us. Sullivan has never said he wants to sell West Ham United. It's only us fans that have always speculated. He's selling. Oh, the Arabs are coming. They're going to buy West Ham. The Americans are coming. They're going to buy West Ham. This consortium, that consortium, everyone's buying West Ham. No one's buying West Ham. Sullivan's there. He doesn't want to let go, Gary, I hear you, Matt, and respect your stance. I had to travel 3,000 miles and spend about $1,100 just to be at the game. Didn't even care that we got thumped. I was over the moon to be there. Anthony, Paquetta didn't want to play against Bournemouth because he was hoping to move to Man City. That was the reason why. He didn't want to get injured. Mark, Paquetta and the Bournemouth game due to the failed Man City bid. Thank you for reminding me. Bowen, 5 out of 10. I'll give him a bit more than that, but I'm glad I had something to do whilst the game was on, which was putting this show together. Because every time I heard the word Bowen, I quickly switched over to watch the football, and I went, okay, it's finished. Gary, I get off my soapbox now. We all support West Ham. How you choose to support is your prerogative. That's, I guess, is what I'm saying as well. How you choose to support West Ham is really your prerogative. If you want to leave early, leave early. If you want to stay out drinking beer at half time, it's after the game started, that's your prerogative. If you don't want to turn up and leave an empty seat, that's your prerogative. You pay your money, up to you what you do with it. Good evening, Foxes. I hope you're well. Frog, not keen on seafood. I've seen where mate, try some. It's lovely. Funky T. Paquetta was due to sign for Man City, and he asked Moyes. That was the reason why. Thank you. West Ham can sue the FA for the loss of Summerville. Well, we can't, really, because after this, look, if he gets found guilty, we can't sue. He's guilty. If he gets found not guilty, West Ham will recoup that. We may not get 85 million for him now, but we can't sue the board, the FA, unfortunately. But the FA themselves won't look good out of this. Josh, found it odd that Bone wasn't making runs in behind. Very static tonight. It was because he was asked to play a different game. Knowing how he plays, obviously instructed from Tuchel, but I don't think it makes best use of him. I agree with that. Totally agree. How far are we? Christ, you lot are eager tonight. Must have not been a show for a couple of weeks. Matt, West Ham and family means everything to me, but with the owners destroying our reputation, our name, our family, it's more than a kick in the teeth. What was promised to what we got in reality. It is true, Matt. You know, we didn't get what we were promised. We know that. You know, I think as fans, I think where Gary's coming from is make the most of it. You know, and I get how fans are feeling upset, downtrodden, bit depressed and all that about West Ham. But I mean, look at me. I'm an idiot. I go to every game, home and away. You know, I went twice when we got thumped against Liverpool up in Liverpool, and I'm still going to the next Liverpool game in a few weeks' time as well. That's how stupid I am. But I go because I enjoy it. I enjoy the banter, enjoy the atmosphere, well, with mates and all that. Of course, sometimes football can be better. I think it's been a little bit better since Potter has returned. There's been some exciting games, not so exciting games. But look, on the whole, you go because you support West Ham, I guess, don't you? And try and get an experience of the day. And we always say sometimes it's the football that ruins the day. Trudge, you got to be careful if shellfish aren't fresh more like, yeah, very true. But hopefully, and on an island where they're fishing, you're guessing it's going to be pretty fresh. Careful what we fish for. GP. Rush should protest by coming out from his booth and singing "It's Not Unusual" by Tom Jones. Have you heard Ross's voice? Josh, regarding Paquetta, I genuinely do remember him making some of those fouls and thinking, what the fuck are you playing at? You see, you know, and I think I remember one of them. I can't remember which one, but I think a lot of us said the same thing. Darren, seafood pie. Oh, mate, they do great paella. Oh, mate. Anyway, let's move on. It's not a show about fish and seafood and food. Right. They may seem like small bets, but their average wage is between 8 to 12K a year. Yeah, the small bets, it doesn't matter the value. It's what the return might have been. You're absolutely correct. Josh, anyone know how many West Ham fans there are? Been seeing small club comments going about, and it got me wondering, in terms of Premier League clubs, how big is it across the world? I don't know. It's a really good question. But we know we've got connections. You've only got to look. I've only got to look at this show. People in Australia, in America, Far East sometimes, etc. Actually, Far East. I need to break into that. There must be loads of Chinese and Thai fans. Well, Thai Hammers. I think there's a group called Thai Hammers on Facebook. You got to look. You know, we've got quite a big reach. Yeah. Don't get downbeaten by people calling us a small club. You know, sod them. Take no interest in them. Who else have we got? Darren. Thing is, Paquetta gave them his phone for 3 weeks, so we got a new phone with a new number. Then when they gave it back to him, he probably thought, what's the point of having two phones? So got rid of it. So he did give them his phone. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So he wasn't, you know, deliberately not giving it back to them. For the record, I was definitely not trying to have a go at anyone. We know that, Gary. It's all good, mate. We like I said, we all support the club in different ways. We all see the club in different ways, etc. And don't forget to hit the like button. Like I said earlier in the show, if you don't become a subscriber, please at the very least hit the like button, because that really does help the channel to be elevated. Sean, good evening, mate. Alvarez has been deployed as the middle of a back three for Mexico's 2 games. He has indeed. GP, I tried to Google it, found nothing, but can our lease of 99 years in any way be cancelled? What will happen? It's iron cast. Pardon the pun. They can't get out of it unless they decide to knock it down, and then they'd have to compensate us quite significantly. Sean, yeah, they vary his roles, but when I watched him, he plays centre back in the main. Yeah, he's played centre back before, Alvarez. It's nothing new to him. Elites only ever left one game early. Chelsea at the London Stadium. I had to pee, and I came at the final whistle. I went out of the stadium bumping to Slates and McAvenny and Wardy. I felt justified. That was a good piss to have, wasn't it, Graham? Without trying to be picky, but if Paquetta was sold to City for 80 million, we could have improved our squad, and ultimately that cost West Ham money. Also, the player would have gotten a huge pay hike. Possibly. What wasn't? I don't know. Yeah, you got a point. It's a good point. 10 men at the back. How are you? Was Rapid Vienna. It was Rapid Vienna, wasn't it? Not Ghent or Genk or whichever club we played. Sean, I thought it was Vienna. That was the one with the big water container being logged back and forth. That was it. Thank you for correcting me. Matt, I watched our final the other day and saw the VAR that was used. It was more efficient, and time used was less than 20 seconds to get the decision correct when Fiorentina was offside. Our VAR is crap. I've asked this before. VAR everywhere else but in England seems to be used so effectively. Why is it that it takes us forever to use it here? Trodge, Sullivan's son was being groomed by being involved with the West Ham women's team for a while. That doesn't sound right when I read it out really fast. Sullivan's son was being groomed by being involved with the West Ham women's team. It's my mind. Paul, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. We'll watch it back. Thank you, mate. Thank you for joining. Who else have we got? Let's scroll down. I'm going to read that one. Let's have a look. Howard, if you want fortunes always hiding tattooed on your ball sack, it's entirely up to you. Why did I read that? Usual. Sullivan won't be here much longer. Old Father Time told me he won't be here much longer, to be quite honest with you. Funky T. I live out in the sticks a bit now, so I have to leave midweek games early to catch the train. Pissing me off and that's why I can't have a go at people, because I understand that some people do have to leave early. But I did ask earlier on, does everyone have to leave early? I don't know. It's become a thing, hasn't it? It's become a thing. Daniela, has anyone seen the football magazine with Kudus and Bowen on it with a headline ticket price victory for fans? Bowen saying we may be rubbish, but at least it won't cost more. Where did that come from? Ray, congratulations to Edson Alvarez for winning the CONCACAF final against Panama. Going to come to internationals in a moment. Sean, Paquetta booking at the end of the first leg against Leverkusen was mental. He hasn't been charged for that, though, but that's the type of player he is. Kevin, did you know Graham Potter's stats with Brighton in 3 months was with his own players won only 4 games? So that's why I'm saying be patient. Kian, Ment Bowen got 5 assists and Ings and Wan-Bissaka on 2 assists. Thank you for that. I was wondering, Ings got the highest assist. The fact that we only got 3 players on more than 1 assist is a joke, let alone one of them being. Now you put it in perspective. You did get me wrong. You went Ings, highest assists. Thank you for correcting, for putting that straight. Daniel, evening to you, mate. Is Fulkrug available to play against Wolves? Yes, he is. If so, that'll be interesting. Wonder who the fan base would prefer to see. Fulkrug for me. Interesting. I'm going to come to that in a bit later on. I met a girl in Boston, Brian, years ago that turned me off the smell of seafood forever. I wish I hadn't read that out now. Oh, really? Oh, Trudge, half the things Paquetta does is mental, though, even his passing. Well, we know that. Matt, Chris Eubanks Jr. versus Conor Benn. Who have you got your money on? For me, Ben, do you know what? I won't lie to you. I gave up having an interest in boxing many, many years ago. I don't even know, to be honest with you, who out of those two is a better boxer. I genuinely don't know. I gave up. I used to watch boxing religiously, start late and all that, all the big boxing matches. It's been quite a number of years now that I've really lost interest in boxing. So I can't answer you. Ghanaian Hammers, Gambian Hammers, and about 30 organized groups in the USA to start with. Green Street, there you go. We're everywhere. Leon, I love seeing international hammer shows. We are massive. Absolutely. Ray, I wouldn't mind having London on the badge if it was prefixed with the word East. Agreed with that. But we knew it was a gimmick for the tourists. We knew that. Trudge, groomed as the word has been. I know. Sorry. There you go again. My warped mind. Graham, I'm off to Spain on vacation in August and I want to try tapas. Try? You got to eat tapas, mate. I'm telling you now. You'll never turn back. Beautiful food. GP, rimming to have been tarnished as a skateboarding term, but became about. But what are you trying to put me off or something? You succeeded. Right. Okay. Let's go into the next part of the show because it's all about international duty. And we're also going to talk about who should start in the next game. So, currently, or ish, given that we're almost at the end of the international break, we've got 8 senior players out on international duty and 14 academy players as well. So, we all know who they are. The senior players, Jared Bowen, of course, Thomas Souček, Vladimir Sivkal for the Czech Republic, Evan Ferguson for Republic of Ireland, Mavropanos for Greece, Alvarez for Mexico, Kudus for Ghana, and Nivagurd for Morocco. And of the 14 academy players, 2 have been selected to represent their senior international teams. And they were Christian Hegyi for Hungary and striker Callum Marshall for Northern Ireland. Now, the rest of the academy players, Caelan Casey, George Earthy, Ollie Scarles, selected for international duty by England elite squad, whatever the hell that is. Midfielder Lewis Orford and goalkeeper Finn Herrick were named in the England under-19 squad to play in the qualifiers for the under-19 championship. Emeka Adiel and Ariadas Golambekis. Nice English names there. Emeka Adiel and Ariadas Golambekis were named in the England under-18s international squad for a tournament in Porto. First-year scholars Lonray Awesu and Chinatsa Nwosu have been called into the England under-17 squad for qualifiers for the UEFA Euro Elite there. And finally, Patrick Kelly and Josh Briggs were called up by Northern Ireland's under-21s for friendlies, as well as Josh Landers, who's a rich vein of form since arriving at West Ham from Hibernian, travelled with Spain with the Scotland under-19s. So, how did they all fare? Well, I'm not going to take you every single player, but I'm going to try and do my best. Lewis Orford, very quickly, was introduced as a late sub for the under-19s England. Made a winning start in their Championship Elite round, Group 7, qualifying with a 2-0 win over Wales. And then he started the next game in the 2-0 win over Turkey at the weekend. Goalkeeper Finlay Herrick did not feature in that first game, but he did play in the game against Turkey and he kept a clean sheet. So congratulations to him. Chinatsa Nwosu started for the under-17s as they began their Championship Round 2 group game, winning 2-0 over Israel. Josh Landers made his Scotland under-19s debut in a 1-1 draw with Sweden on Wednesday and then was on the score sheet for the under-19s in their friendly against Poland at the weekend, but was unable to prevent his side from losing 4-1. And then elsewhere on Saturday, Golambekis and Adiel were starters for the England under-18s, who played a 2-2 draw with France. And it was Adiel who set up England's first goal. And then finally, Patrick Kelly captained Northern Ireland's under-21s as they were edged out 1-0 by Ukraine in a friendly in Turkey. Right, what about the senior players? Well, what do I start? Which one should I do? Let's start from the very start. Mavropanos started and played the full game for Greece, but ended the evening disappointed as Scotland scored a controversial 1-0 win in their Nations League playoff. But then on Sunday, Mavropanos completed the full 90 minutes to help Greece impressively bounce back by defeating Scotland 3-1. So they've gone through promotion for Greece. On the other side of the Atlantic, Edson Alvarez was named captain and started, as someone has already mentioned, started at centre-back in Mexico's 2-0 win over Canada in the Nations League semi-final in California. And then in the early hours of this morning, he captained Mexico for their first CONCACAF Nations League title earning a dramatic 2-1 win over Panama in the final. So congratulations to him. And as we all know, Jared Bowen featured in the first game on Friday in their 2-0 win over Albania as a sub, but then he started for Latvia in the game tonight where he left the pitch, I think, on 60 minutes when we were winning 1-0, and then England ultimately won that game 3-0 overall. Wasn't a great game. I thought he played okay, but as people have been saying, he was asked to play a very different game than he normally does play for West Ham. So kind of a bit wasted, I guess, in a way for him. Who else we got? In Africa, Kudus and Ghana scored a thumping 5-0 win over Chad in Accra last week to go top of their CAF group. Although not getting on the score sheet himself, Kudus and his Ghanaian team had a much better start to their internationals after not qualifying for the AFCON earlier this year. But earlier today, Kudus finally broke his goal duck when he scored in the 3-0 win over Madagascar in their next World Cup qualifier. Couldn't have come at a better time, really, for Kudus, to be quite honest with you. He's been barren. He's only scored 3 goals for West Ham this season. It's been quite barren for him. We know he's trying, but it's just not been happening for him. Now, this goal, fingers crossed. Give me a second. It's bloody hot in here. That's better. Jesus Christ. I put the heating on. I don't know why, but there you go. Maybe because I'm still feeling like want to keep warm from being on holiday. Anyway, back to it. So Kudus finally broke his duck, and it couldn't have come at a better time, really. I think it's a good sign for Kudus to having scored in the game against Madagascar today. It might really bode well as to how the rest of his season pans out with West Ham. Naifa Gerd, currently on loan, as we know, at Real Sociedad, played the whole game of Morocco's dramatic 2-1 win over Niger in the World Cup qualifying group game there. Thomas Souček and Vladimir Soufal's Czech Republic survived the scare from the Faroe Islands to get their World Cup qualifying campaign to a winning start. It was 1-1 until the last moment, and when Patrick Schick found a late winner. Staying with Thomas Souček, he was again named Czech Footballer of the Year for the 4th time in a row. Recently celebrated his 5th anniversary at West Ham. And in the 23-24 season, he was involved in scoring or creating 13 goals from 52 appearances, whilst he played 11 matches for his national team as well. There's an awful lot of speculation going on at the moment that he could be sold in the summer. And we know that he's David Moyes really likes the player. Would he go for him? 30 years of age, and there's talk about, 20, 25 million pounds. I mean, we only paid 19 million for him 5 years ago. So if we got 20 odd million pounds after 5 years of service, it's a tough one, isn't it? Would you take that, or would you want to keep him? I mean, Potter himself actually likes the player. He's admitted that when he was at Brighton, he would have liked to have signed him during his tenure at Brighton. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see whether we keep him or whether we sell him. He's still got a couple of years left on his contract at West Ham United. It's a conflicting one because I like Souček. I know a lot of fans don't like him. I know a lot of fans have got it in for him, but when did it stop, West Ham fans, when we stopped liking, admiring a player that put 100% effort in? Didn't we? We've always liked a grafter, a trier at West Ham United. We may have not had the most skillful players ever in the world. We've had our fair share, but we've always really liked having a grafter in the team. And for me, Souček has always been a grafter. Someone that always puts a lot of effort in, plays with his heart on his sleeve, etc. But for some reason, to a lot of fans, that's not good enough. I don't know. I'm in two minds, because if we got 20 odd million for him, you can invest that in a box-to-box midfielder at West Ham United. So I see the benefit of doing it, selling him at the age of 30, getting 20 odd million for him and putting that money towards a 25-year-old, 24, 25, 26-year-old box-to-box midfielder. We know that's what we need. We know we're missing pace in the middle of the park. We're missing someone that can drive the team forward. So it's going to be. If we sold him and spent the money wisely on a replacement, then I'd say fair enough. If we didn't sell him, I'd say no problem. We keep him as he is. So interesting to see what happens there. And then, of course, we come to Evan Ferguson. He was introduced as a 76-minute sub for the Republic of Ireland in their 2-1 win over in the Nations League playoff over Bulgaria last week. And then he came on at the weekend, I think it was Sunday, where he scored after playing 74 minutes for the Republic of Ireland again against Bulgaria. He played well, took the goal pretty well as well. And then, of course, this really now, the conversation is, do we play Evan Ferguson in the game? Do we start him in the game against Wolves next Tuesday night? And as people have already mentioned, Nicholas Füllkrug is back from injury as well. So Graham Potter has got some choices to make. We've got Mohamed Kudus, who has now scored a goal on his international break and looks prime. Maybe, that will spur him on to go and get more goals now for West Ham United. And we've got Ferguson, who's scored an international duty as well. And we've got Nicholas Füllkrug back from injury. So I know a lot of people have been asking, what's the point of getting him if we're not going to play him? Well, let's not forget why Ferguson, Potter explained why he came to West Ham. He more or less admitted that he was brought to the club as cover. And, at that time, with the likes of Danny Ings not really being the answer up front and, having to make do with Bowen, or he's tried Bowen, Paquetta and Kudus up front, which has kind of worked to varying degrees. And with Füllkrug out injured as well, it made sense that we needed to get a striker in to give us a bit of cover. I personally am not convinced on Ferguson. I don't know. He could come good. I don't know. But for me, I just think that maybe we need a different type of striker at West Ham United in the way that Potter wants us to play. And let's not forget, not taking anything away from Ferguson from scoring, but it was against Bulgaria. They're not exactly the highest level of international opposition, to be really honest with you. But fair play to him. He played 3/4 of the game. He showed some, reasonable skill, reasonable sort of approach, etc. He took the goal quite well as well. But does that mean now that he starts against Wolves? And I think for me, the answer is no. Does Füllkrug start? Again, for me, the answer is probably no, because what it will mean is you'd need now the only let me take that back 1 second. If a striker started, it would be because Paquetta is not likely to be in the right frame of mind or available to play for West Ham whilst the whole case is going on. So I think it's going to be quite interesting what he does. If Paquetta, I'm going to say that Paquetta is not going to be available or not going to be made available in the game against Wolves next week. He's maybe his state of mind might not be right. So I'm going to take Paquetta out of the equation. I'm going to say he's not going to be made available. That would then leave a space open. Now, I know a lot of people have been saying, we don't want to see Alvarez, Ward-Prowse and Souček playing in the middle of a three. And if you recall the last game that we played against Everton, I questioned why was Alvarez not picked? And now we know because he was ill. Otherwise, he would have played. I wonder who would have been dropped if Alvarez had played. And I think there's an awful lot of speculation that it's quite possible that it would have been Souček dropped out of the team to accommodate Alvarez. But would you keep Souček, James Ward-Prowse and Alvarez in the middle of a three to allow us to have a striker up front? And I'm thinking the only way that we're going to get a striker playing or starting in the game against Wolves is if Paquetta is not made available. So bear with me. I'm just downloading at the moment a potential lineup because I think the rest of the lineup, there might be a question mark over. Actually, you know what? I'm going to change that. So let's cancel that. So bear with me 1 second because what happened? What happened in the last game? We had him there. I'm going to show you what I'm doing in a second, people. So do give me a moment. Mavropanos started. Oof. Mavropanos started as well. Would you play Mavropanos? Possibly you would. Okay, you take him out. You put him. Okay, so this is the lineup that I think. Let's make sure I haven't got 12 players. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Who would I take out? Let's go with Ward-Prowse. So we then have this. Right, I'm going to download this, see what you think. This is to accommodate a striker in the West Ham team if Paquetta is not available. So let that download for a second. Do forgive me for it not being available beforehand because I've only just thought of this actually. I thought I could talk it through, but it's always much better to show you what I'm thinking. So let's load that. Right. Whilst that's loading, bear with me. I feel a bit cooler with that sweatshirt off now. So, like I said, if we start with a striker, I think this is the kind of lineup that you might see against Wolves. Paquetta may not be in the right frame of mind. And then that means that we've got to decide, do we keep Ward-Prowse in the team or do we bring in a striker? I think if a striker starts, it could be Füllkrug. I'm going to be really honest with you. I don't think a striker will start. Füllkrug is just coming back from injury. Ferguson, and the reason why I don't think Ferguson will start is because I'm not so sure that at this moment in time, Potter is convinced that he's going to keep Ferguson at West Ham next season. So this is only if. My gut tells me that we will probably have James Ward-Prowse in this lineup and we'll have Bowen and Kudus up front with a 3 in the middle of Souček, Ward-Prowse and Alvarez. That's what I think. Back 5, middle 3, and then a 2. That's what I think will actually happen. But this is just to show what might happen if we go with a striker. Is it going to be Ferguson or is it going to be Füllkrug? I get a feeling that maybe Füllkrug will get the nod over Ferguson. Maybe. But my gut tells me it'll probably be a 5-3-2. And the 5-3-2 would be having James Ward-Prowse in there, Füllkrug out with Bowen and Kudus running the line up front. That's what I think will happen. But this is what you could have if you put a striker in. I'm not convinced on Ferguson. And I don't think Ferguson will start the game against Wolves. I don't think Füllkrug will start either, having only just come back from injury. He'll be eased in slowly. And I don't think we will have Evan Ferguson at West Ham United next season. Now, apparently Brighton are unhappy with West Ham because we're not giving him more game time. That's our prerogative. You know, Brighton don't dictate to us who we should and shouldn't play. And, you know, I guess what they wanted was their player to go out, get game time, get fit again. Who for? You know, if we don't keep him, we're not going to benefit from him getting fit. The only team that are going to benefit are Brighton. And I'm not saying that we're being facetious and just dropping dropping Ferguson, but because of that. But Potter's got to pick the team that he thinks is best for West Ham. And I think he will go with a team that's got the back 5, the 3 in the middle, and Bowen and Kudus running the front line. Now, I know people don't like Bowen playing up top, but he can do it. I showed you a stat a couple of weeks ago. He was just as effective playing up front as he is playing out wide. Now, I know he's better out wide overall, but that means we need a proper striker in the middle. I don't think Füllkrug is going to be ready yet. He's back available, but I don't think he's ready to start. And I'm not so sure Ferguson is ready to start either. I'm going to shut up and see what you guys think. Josh. With the international break, I've been watching our European highlights, and Jesus, the Seville home leg atmosphere looked mental. The rendition of Bubbles, I was there, and I can tell you categorically, it was electric that night. And I remember all of us, it was like we were in a trance. And I remember all our mates standing in the Bobby Moore Low and just looking at each other and just going, wow. You know, we never experienced it. We haven't since. We never experienced such an. It can. That's the thing. That's why I'm in a real dilemma with the stadium, because it can create, or the fans can create, a great atmosphere. Dads, West Ham, East London, aren't they originally an Essex side? One to Arsenal. Ask Nigel, he'll probably know. Funky T, Paquetta is third in the Premier yellow card table with 27. Not a difficult choice to make a bet on. I wonder if the two players above in the table are on the. What a good point you've just made there. Good point. And I think that's where the argument's going to be. The argument is going to be, this is his style of game. This is the way he plays. What about all the others? Or about all the other teams that other games that he's received yellow cards in? Good point. Green Street. I'm going to bid you good night to you, mate. No problem at all. I hope you have a good night. Matt, gotta love. No problem, mate. No problem at all. Thank you for joining and thank you for watching. Much appreciated. Who else have we got? Mark. Alvarez dropped back, but was a midfielder most of the time against Panama. He definitely started centre back in the first game. Usual. I thought you were only going to do OnlyFans just then. No, mate. No, you don't want to see this body. Gary, Tom is one of my favourites, and I will hate to see him go, but I'll take 25 million for him. Trodge, take away Souček goals, and we could be bottom three. That's a really good point. That's why I think Souček doesn't get the credit he deserves. Josh, I think Souček hate comes up at the time the media peddled the West Ham fans, hate the style of play, rubbish. Some fans got on the bandwagon, pointing fingers at him, it seems. Yeah, that's a really good point as well. Tony, thank you, mate. Much appreciated. Sean, keep Souček, sell Ward-Prowse. Interesting point. Usual, sell Souček. That way we can give Danny Ings and his fabulous hair a contract extension. Obsidian, I would see Souček for the right price. I would sell Souček for the right price if he went abroad. Don't want to see him in another Premier League club, and certainly don't want to see him scoring against us. Leon, Potter's got no excuse not to play him. I guess you're talking about Ferguson. Dads, keep Souček. He has another 3 reasons in him. And all West Ham do is waste money on a player who won't offer the same output as him. Better the devil you know. Keep our Czech star. Yeah, I like that bit. Yeah, star. Even though that's Russian, not Czech. But anyway, I get it. Trodge, Souček never relied on pace, so should last quite a long time. That's a really good point. Toha, he won't lose any pace in that time. Gary, it's really hard for me to have any opinion on Ferguson. I don't really have anything good or bad to go on. Yeah, fair play. Dads, Souček still performs despite lack of pace. He's crucial for us, still scoring goals too. Totally agree. Trodge, Ward-Prowse, the crab, I will drop. Dads, madness selling Souček. The club needs to sell Kudus. The star boy's so poor. Stats prove not just this season, but last. I wouldn't. And I'll tell you why. Because he was a sensation last season. And I know the only stat that's been against him last season was apparently didn't score any winners. Who cares? He still scored goals. But the reason why I wouldn't sell him is because first season was sensational. This season he's been found out. Next season he's going to be... It'll be that... I think I explained it last time. I don't know if you were on, Dads. It's like your best, your favorite band. They do a sensational album, their first album, smashes it. And then the second album is like, oh, that's a bit, not so great. And then the third album comes and they're like back to their best. And I think that's how Kudus will be. I think next season he'll be back to his best. And the last thing I want to see is him being back to his best in a Liverpool shirt or something like that. Sean, Alvarez in the back 3, Irving for Ward-Prowse. Would rather Rodriguez than Ward-Prowse. Interesting. Trodge, play Kudus deeper alongside Alvarez just once, please, so he can run at teams. Yeah, maybe play a 5-4-1, having him in the middle and Bowen up top on his own. Yeah. 2 up, good evening to you. Well, yeah, it doesn't matter if you're late. Thank you for joining, mate. Much appreciated. Soward, I think both Soufal and Souček will head to Merseyside. It's very possible. Very possible. Howard, Potter might want to have a look at him pre-season. Usual. Look at who? Fearon. Yeah. Or Mayha. Yeah. I take it Agerd isn't coming back. We don't know that yet. Let's see what happens. Leon, if Potter doesn't use Ferguson, how much more have we wasted loan money? Have we not a lot? He's on about 35 grand a week, give or take 35, 40 grand a week. I don't know what the loan fee would have been. We would have covered his wages. I guess that would have been it. It's not, in the grand scheme of things, it's not a lot. Epic. Agerd doesn't want to be here. Sell him. Yeah, fair point. Paul, Ferguson does not look good at all. Why are we not playing Guilherme? Good question. I thought maybe Guilherme after the Chelsea game would have got more game time, but he hasn't. Trudge, I said it would take 2 months for Fergie to get fit and was pointless. So would you play him now? Leon, where are we at? Not far. I agree. With Epic, Agerd doesn't want to be here. If a player doesn't want to be here, close the door on your way out. We will get good money. We'll get good money for Agerd. Might get good money for Souček. Maybe get a few quid for, maybe less money for Ward-Prowse. Josh, I want to get good seats for the Spurs game. Usually, I just got the gods because I don't want to be splashed. Any recommendation? Lower, Bobby Moore lower, absolutely. It's good atmosphere there. Trevor Brooking lower or Bobby Moore lower is good atmosphere. Kian, slot Alvarez into back three and tell the Greek to go. Usual. The uncertainties this season with Lopetegui, Paquetta, Potter has left me feeling a bit of ambivalence this season. Mark, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. If anyone has yet to become a member of Aruba Hammers, please do go on Facebook, become a member of Aruba Hammers. I had a great holiday. Well, I had a good holiday. I was away. Cheers, Mark. Josh, I'd sell Ward-Prowse, and even though I hated the idea of selling Kudus last season, I would sell him now. His bad decision-making, bad passing outweighs his strengths, as long as it's not to Arsenal. I wouldn't sell him. I really wouldn't sell him. Sean, Kudus for Kelleher and Nunes will do for me. Interesting. Okay. Josh, what's the deal with Irving? It seems like fans singing his praises, but then we never see him again. I just think he's fallen down the pecking order, to be quite honest with you. All players back from injury, etc. And I wouldn't be surprised if probably we sell him at the end of the season. Nunes could be like Arnie for us. I like Nunes, but it's not happening for him at Liverpool, is it? Got to the end. And I did all the show. Well, there's no football to talk. There won't be any football to talk about next weekend either. There'll be a lot of Premier League football, but we're not playing until Tuesday. Of course, I'm going up there. I'll do a West Ham Weekly. I've got other things. I've been writing script. This is my problem. I start writing scripts about other things, and then I don't get time to and then I go on holiday, so I don't get time to do them. But look out. I am going to talk about, and I know I said this a few weeks ago, a few weeks back, I did a show about what players we might be buying, all this transfer speculation. I'm writing a script about players who I think we could be moving on. So it's interesting what you're saying about the likes of Ward-Prowse and so on. And, we've got a lot of players on loan. We've got a lot of players coming to the end of their contract. So do look out for that. I'm going to finish that script and then do a show. It's the FA Cup this weekend. But we've got Premier League football as well, haven't we? Or not? I don't know. I could be wrong. So yes, watch out for that as well. So thank you all for contributing. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for getting involved as usual. Like I said, if you're not yet a subscriber, please consider subscribing. But more importantly, please hit the like button. I know a lot of you guys hit the like button for previous videos, etc. Got to do it for this one as well, please. That will be really, really useful. They're all midweek games. So yeah, the FA Cup weekend. Sorry, I got that wrong. So thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. Really much appreciated. And I will see you all later this week.